welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. Today I have a homeschooling video for you, but it's a little bit different than what I normally do. I know that it could be really challenging as a homeschool parent in general to feel like you're doing enough, or, you know, to see other people doing all of these things and you're over here like, well, I don't do that, and I don't do that, and I don't do that. So I kind of wanted to share a video about the 10 things that I don't do in our homeschool. So if you are new here, hello, welcome. My name is Sarah and I'm a homeschooling mom to two girls, ages 10 and 13, so 5th and 8th grade. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by once again. I do really appreciate you. So, fun fact about this video, I have been trying to film this video for 2 days. And my house is just so loud. So say hello to my children's stuff for our background today. Anyway, let's get into it because I feel like I might be a little chatty today. But again, this is 10 things that I don't do in our homeschool. So the first thing, and I do have a list because me even trying to remember 10 things that I don't do, I wouldn't be able to remember all 10. So I might be looking down a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that I don't do in our homeschool, some of this might come as a little bit of a shock. Some of it, it's probably like, hey, I've been watching you for a little while. That doesn't seem like something you would do anyway. But the first thing that I don't do is stick to a strict schedule. So this one probably isn't too shocking for anybody if they've watched my channel before. I've mentioned before that we do not go off of a strict schedule. Sorry. We do not go off of a strict schedule. We go off of more of a routine when it comes to homeschooling and getting our subjects and, you know, our lessons in. So what I mean by this is that I don't wake up at a certain time. I don't start school at a certain time. And I'm not the type of person that says, okay, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. we're doing math. I don't do that because it just doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for my kids. If for any reason I start to feel like I'm getting, you know, behind on something, it stresses me out, and it doesn't make the homeschool experience for us enjoyable. And one of the main things that I want my kids to get out of this experience, and what I want to get out of this homeschool experience as well, is a love and joy of learning, not a pressure of trying to stick to a schedule. So yeah, that's something I don't do. I do not stick to a strict schedule. Now, with that being said, I am the type of person that likes to plan what we do, but even when it comes to my planning, I don't plan everything because I really like to leave wiggle room in our days to just dive deeper into anything that my kids are interested in. So even my planning is very very loosely done, and I never plan for an entire year. So there's the first one. I do not stick to a strict schedule, and I do not stick to like a strict plan. Now, the second thing I don't do in our homeschool is have a homeschool room. So this one has actually changed over the years. I used to have a homeschool room, and I loved having a homeschool room, but as my kids got older, and I don't know, we just started using that room less and less. Like, when I first started homeschooling, I felt like I had to have a dedicated space in order to teach my kids, and that I had to have an area that looked like a traditional classroom. And then I came to realize that I don't need to have a setup that looks like a traditional classroom because this isn't a traditional classroom. So over the years, I just kind of got rid of our homeschool room because in the end, all it did for us was hold our supplies and hold our books. If you've seen any of my videos with my library, I have a library in my loft, so that makes it easier for me to not have a homeschool room as well, because I have cabinets and, you know, shelves and all that kind of stuff where all of this homeschool stuff can go. But we primarily homeschool around the dining room table or on the couch in the living room. So dedicating an entire extra bedroom in our home it just didn't it didn't fit us. It was almost like wasted space at this point because we never used it except for storage for homeschool stuff. So I do not keep a homeschool room. We do work off of a homeschool cart that I keep in our dining room that holds like the everyday stuff that we'll be needing while we're downstairs. But again, my kids are in the 5th and 8th grade, so I don't need like a dedicated space. A lot of their work is done independently now, so it just didn't work out over the years for us. But it was great, and I think they are great if you feel you need that getaway space. And I felt I needed that at the beginning of our journey, but 9 years in, I needed the extra room more than I needed the classroom. So number 3, we do not do homeschool co-ops. And we have nothing against a homeschool co-op. I just found that at least the co-ops in our area, I just found that the rules and regulations and requirements that we needed to meet to join these homeschool co-ops and continue to be in these homeschool co-ops were just way too much for me to want to deal with, to be honest. Sorry, my hair is really bugging me today. There we go. So I remember when I was looking into a homeschool co-op probably like 6 years ago, I found one that I was interested in, and then I was looking at like the rules and requirements, and every so often I had to be the host, to bring all of the kids and families to my house, and I needed to put on, like a lesson for everybody, and, I needed to organize all these things, and then there was like attendance requirements, and I don't want to deal with any of that. Again, because we stick to a routine and not a strict schedule, it makes it a little bit difficult to join a co-op for us, because like I said earlier, if we are really into a certain subject and we're spending like all this time just diving deeper, I'm not going to stop that joy and that love in that moment because, oh, at 2 p.m. we have to go meet up at the park for a homeschool co-op. It just didn't work for us. And again, there's nothing wrong with joining a co-op. I think it's a great way for kids to, play with each other and, communicate, whatever your socialization, whatever you want to call it. I think that's great, but there are other ways for us that we used without feeling the pressures of meeting all the requirements that just didn't work into our routine. So no co-ops here at our house. Okay, so the 4th thing that might be kind of shocking that I don't do is I do not stick to letter grades. Another thing I don't stick to that kind of falls under this category is I don't stick to specific grade level curriculum either. So with this, I don't do letter grades. I never found a reason to basically tell my kids, okay, you got an A on this math paper and you got a B on this. There was never really any purpose in our homeschool for that. So letter grades just isn't something that I do. Now, my kids have not hit high school yet. Next year, my oldest daughter will be in the 9th grade. So I'm sure that letter grades are coming in the future, but so far in the 9 years that I've been homeschooling, letter grades were not a priority, and they never served a purpose. So I never dealt with letter grades really. Also, when it comes to sticking to grade level curriculum, I kind of go with the flow of how my kids are learning and where they're at. I like to pick curriculum that meets their needs opposed to meeting what grade level they would be in a traditional school. So as an example, when my oldest daughter was in the 6th grade, she was doing a 6th grade language arts, a 7th grade math, but then an 8th grade science. That was fine with me. And another example of this would be like with my youngest daughter. She had a lot of challenges when it came to reading. So she was in she was in the 3rd grade doing 2nd grade language arts and reading programs and phonics programs, but then she was doing 4th grade math. So I just like to make sure that I am keeping up with their needs and their growth. So as long as my kids are showing improvement in a subject, I really don't pay attention to the grade level. Again, I'm sure that will change next year with Bella when she goes into high school, but as of right now, it's not a big priority for me. So I just don't do that. Now, for number 5, I do not stick to a 5-day-a-week full-on homeschool week. I do not homeschool fully 5 days. We have 4 full days of homeschool where we get everything that we really need to get done in those 4 days. And then that 5th day that I do count as a homeschool day is left for games, crafts, art, music. It's left for the things that are more hands-on that I may not feel like I want to do when I have to try and teach and do everything else. I kind of keep a day, almost like a fun Friday. So I like to keep a day open to do more hands-on learning. And sometimes that day, that 5th day, is just like, wow, it's a beautiful day outside. Let's make sure we enjoy it. So, I mean, that 5th day for us, there's so many different ways to learn that I want to make sure that my kids aren't just stuck in a book or a curriculum, which is nothing wrong with reading. I love reading. But I want my kids to learn hands-on as well. I want them to be able to experience science experiments and arts and crafts and just going outside and, you know, playing in the dirt. So I homeschool primarily 4 days, and that 5th day is just left to catching up and to learning in different ways and playing games. Now, number 6. This one. So I do not finish curriculum, and I do not stick to curriculum completely. So I like to use curriculum more as a resource and a guide. It's not the primary structure to the way that I teach my kids. So here's an example. So when my daughter was in the 4th grade, we were finding that she was struggling with math. Okay, so this was Lydia. She's now in the 5th grade. But Lydia was struggling with math, but she wasn't struggling with the concepts of math. She was struggling with the program that we were using. So we ended up switching Lydia's math curriculum halfway through her 4th grade year. So when I started this new program, I started her at the beginning of the program instead of skipping halfway through. We started at the beginning, so we did not finish that curriculum at the end of 4th grade because we had started it at 2nd semester. So what ended up happening is instead of forcing her to try and finish it over the summer and take time out of her time off, what we did was we just started up where we left off at the beginning of her 5th grade year. So currently, she is on Math 5, but she is not exactly where she should be in this 5th grade curriculum because we did take the time to finish up most of the 4th grade math. So, I mean, I just don't feel like I have to get every piece of the curriculum done in 1 year. I'm okay with taking more time. I'm okay with going faster if we need to. And some of that 4th grade math that she that she was going to finish up, some of that math we didn't even complete because she already knew the concept, so we just moved on. So, I mean, it's just, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. I feel like you know your kids, and when you're teaching them, and if you notice them just really understanding a concept, I'm not the type of person that's going to continue to teach the concept over and over and over and over and over again if they already understand it. So I will skip through parts of curriculum that my kids already grasp. I will slow down where I need to slow down, but it's very rare for me to finish a complete curriculum in its entirety and the way that it's supposed to. I mean, even with my daughter Bella this year, I cut certain things out of her science program that I just didn't think that she needed to do. So I don't even know how to explain it. I just really want to meet the needs of my kids, I guess you can say. I'm just not very strict when it comes to following the curriculum as it is intended. I just think that that's the beauty of homeschool. You know, you could adjust these things to meet your kids' needs and your family's needs, so why not? Okay, number 7. I do not require my kids to get dressed to start our homeschool day. So my kids, as long as they brush their teeth and brush their hair, I don't care if they show up for school in pajamas. It's not a priority to me. I don't feel that getting dressed for the day, you know, as soon as we start school is necessary. Now, I know that some people like to have their children dressed for the day because then they're ready to go and it's like, okay, I'm showing up and here I am. But I never found that being a problem with my kids. My kids don't, I've heard some people say that their kids actually perform better with their homeschool subjects if they're dressed for the day. That was never the case with my kids. My kids actually perform better when they're cozy and comfy. Now, if we need to go somewhere, yeah, we'll get dressed. But to show up at the dining room table, they can wear their PJs. It's not a big thing for me. Now, what is it? What number am I on? I already lost what number I'm at. Am I at 8? I think I'm at 8. See, I have a list and I still don't know. So this one can be a little bit controversial. I do not limit screen time in my home. Actually, I do kind of the opposite. I use screens like TV and video games and things like that to actually help educate my kids. So a perfect example of this is that we were learning about Babylon, and my kids were really fascinated with that. And they were like, oh, you know, we were done with school, and they're like, we're going to go play Minecraft upstairs. And I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead. We're done with school. You're done with chores. Fine. When I walked up there, they were building the structures from the pictures that I showed them from Babylon. So I realized in that moment that I can actually use video games to help further educate my children. So does that mean that we're just doing video games all day? No, of course not. But I did realize in that moment that it could help like really solidify some of the concepts that I was teaching. So I just thought that that was just really amazing. And we also watch a lot of documentaries, and we watch like videos on YouTube to help us, again, solidify concepts that we were learning about. So for me to sit there and limit their screens, I just didn't felt was necessary. My kids are required to have school done and to have their chores done before they can just have like free play on the screen time. And also it is a requirement that my kids go outside when the weather permits. So my kids are required to go outside and things like that. So it's not like they're only sitting behind a screen. But yeah, there are no limits in my house to screen time. So there's that. Now, number 9. This one, I kind of feel like I've met a lot of homeschoolers that kind of feel this way. But I do not stick to a strict homeschooling style or teaching method or anything like that. I know a lot of the time you'll hear people, oh, I love Charlotte Mason, or I'm a classical homeschooler, or I'm eclectic, or, I do unschooling. I don't stick to any of that. I really don't care about the teaching style of the program as long as it works and we like it. So if I find a Charlotte Mason, art study and an unschooling journal that I like, I'll use them because they work and we like them, not because of a certain style. So I do not stick to a certain style of teaching or homeschooling. So number 10, the last one. And this one was probably the hardest one for me to accept as a homeschooling parent. And it wasn't even more like accept, it was more like learn. It was more like I had to teach myself not to do this. But number 10 is I do not let outside influences affect my homeschool. Now, I know that sounds kind of strange coming from me while I'm talking to you about homeschooling, but what I mean by this is the negative comments that I may hear or come across, by being a homeschool mom, I don't let that affect me. I really, again, I take that with a grain of salt. And you have to understand that anytime you do something like homeschooling, you're going to have people with opinions. But a lot of the time, these people that have those negative opinions are people that don't actually understand what we as parents are trying to do by homeschooling. So when somebody doesn't understand something, their opinion on it is just like, oh, okay. To me, I'm not going to get mad about it. I'm not going to, throw a fit or anything over it. I just need to understand that some people don't understand what I'm actually trying to do, and that's okay. I have to be okay with that. People are not going to agree with me homeschooling. Also, what I mean by not letting outside influence my homeschool is I do not let every new trend and every new curriculum show up in my homeschool just because. If our homeschool is going great and we have a great routine going and everything's working, I'm not going to introduce something fresh and new just because it's fresh and new. I'm going to continue to do what we're doing, and I might watch the videos. I mean, an example of this would be like the morning menus. If you've been watching some homeschool videos about morning menus, I love the concept of morning menus, but I feel like my homeschool is kind of beyond that. And what I mean by that is, if my kids were younger, I feel like it would be perfect to have in my homeschool or in our homeschool. But we have such a great routine going with just our morning basket and our morning time that I really don't feel like I need to add in a morning menu. You know, for us, I really don't even know what I'd put in it, to be honest, but I really like the concept of the morning menu with having like a hymn study or a poetry reading or, you know, just practicing handwriting in this morning menu. But I don't want to introduce something that I already know is going to feel like extra. It's already going to feel like, okay, now we got to do this. Things are working. Why am I going to change it? So I just don't do that. I don't let outside influences affect our homeschool anymore. I used to think that every new thing had to be introduced to my kid. Every new curriculum had to be tried to see if it was better. And I realized the grass isn't always greener, and all that did was cost me a lot of money. So, so I don't do that anymore. But again, a lot of those things out there are really wonderful. I think that if you're looking for things to help you, that's one thing. But if you are just watching and seeing these new trends and are only introducing them because you feel you have to, not because you want to, I think that could be challenging. So I really don't let those outside influences affect our homeschool anymore, because the negativity that can be surrounded by homeschooling, it's actually been a lot better since 2020. A lot more people are a little bit more understanding now when it comes to homeschooling, but there have been times that there have been some really not nice comments that have been made to me. And again, the person just did not understand what I was trying to do. So there was no point in trying to argue with somebody that didn't grasp the concept that they were trying to put down, if that makes sense. So I just really don't let those comments and those new trends sneak into our homeschool without a purpose. Well, the negativity stays out, but the new trends will only sneak on in if it's something that we would benefit from, not just do it because it's fresh and new. So those are the 10 things that I don't do in our homeschool. Please let me know if there's anything that you found, you know, strange or weird on this list that you just thought, hey, how do you not do that? Or if there's anything that you choose not to do in your homeschool, I would love to hear that as well. So if you have any comments, please leave it in the comment section. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great day. Bye.